Welcome to C Talks. I'm your host, Sandeep Alur. I've always stayed curious to understand how some of the top leaders went about strategizing, innovating, and brought about a change for their businesses. So in this podcast series, it is my effort to unearth real stories, practical tips, and valuable lessons from top leaders. So subscribe to C Talks today and join the conversations. I hope you find these conversations meaningful. So let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to C Talks. I'm your host Sandeep Alur, and my guest for today is Joseph Landers, co-founder and chief revenue officer of Nerdio. Joseph, welcome to C Talks.
So good to be with you, Sandeep. Thank
Wonderful.
you so much.
It's great seeing you after a long time.
It is.
Thanks for joining me today. So, quick question to Joseph, right in. You spent 23 years in Microsoft, and then we went on to co-found Nerdio. So, what was your motivation? What led you to this path?
So first of all, it is great to be here with you doing this video. Yes, I was at Microsoft for 23 years. It was super hard to leave. When I thought about the opportunity that existed to start Nerdio, I felt that there were really two different options. You know, I could stay at Microsoft and try to build this sort of technology in Microsoft,
right,
or I could leave and do a startup. And I always felt that if I didn't leave and I didn't try it, I'd get to the end of my life and I'd wonder, what would it have been like to do a startup?
Right.
And I always thought that, you could try a startup, and some people try startups and they don't work. Some people try startups and they work really well. In any case, I could have probably come back to Microsoft or gone to some other company. So I said, well, let's try it and see what happens. And I'm super glad that I took the risk and did it.
Wonderful. So good to hear. You said this journey, but I'm sure there were challenges for sure, right, when you started. So what are some of the top challenges you had as you started this company as a co-founder?
Yeah, there's big challenges when you start a company with 2 people, you grow to 5 people. I think number one challenge is finding great people.
Wow.
So I think everything starts with people. If you're going to build a successful company, it's all about people. It's finding great people. It's finding people who are willing to go on the mission with you.
Right.
Finding people who believe in the mission. And each new person you bring on, we would agonize over would they work well at Nerdio? Would they not work well at Nerdio? Do they understand what we're trying to build? So I think the first challenge was, how do we just find great people? And you know what? We're at 120 people now, and it's still a challenge. Every day you think about, how can we go out and recruit great people? How can we re-recruit the great people that we have?
Right.
So everything begins and ends with people. And I think the other challenge, of course, for me, having worked at Microsoft for 23 years, which is the biggest company, is how would I adapt to something much smaller? How would I adapt to having to do much more myself? A good example is we would start going to a lot of trade shows early on. Well, when I was at Microsoft, if you and I went to a trade show, everything was set up for us.
Absolutely.
At Nerdio, I showed up, I had to unpack the boxes, I had to set up the stand, right? So there's a mind shift that, no, you're the one who's doing everything when you're a founder.
Right.
As you grow a little bit, you add more people that could help you, but you have to be willing to sweep the floor yourself.
Wonderful. You mentioned mission, Joseph. In fact, I'm sure you have a mission, vision, and a strategy.
Yeah.
Now, you had a strategy when you started Nerdio. With challenges, has it remained the same, or it has emerged?
Yeah, I mean, at Nerdio, our mission is to empower IT professionals to be successful with the Microsoft Cloud.
Right.
And the specific technology we focus on is desktop virtualization. So Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Intune. The amazing thing is that the total addressable market, the TAM, continues to grow. There are so many people who want to stream their desktops, from the cloud onto any device, anywhere. And we build technology that makes it a lot easier for them on top of the Microsoft native technologies. And I think as a founder, there's a certain piece of sticking to your mission and sticking to the strategy, but also being willing to adapt and being willing to change as the market changes. For us, when Microsoft came out with Azure Virtual Desktop in October 2019. That was an amazing moment for us. And then Microsoft came out with Windows 365, so we had to have a solution for that as well. So as a founder, you want to stick to the mission, but you also want to be flexible enough to adapt to the changing market around you.
Wonderful. Flexible strategy or strategy emerged for you in the last few years. Of course, pandemic happened and things had to change. Quickly now, you said failures as a founder initially. Of course, everybody faces that. But what's been the biggest learning, right? We hear the term called fail fast, but what's been your story on that?
So we just had our company meeting last week, and I was telling our company that we need to do a much better job at encouraging people to take risks. And being okay failing. I was sort of joking, but not joking, that we should give out an award at our monthly meeting for the person who tried something and failed.
Wow.
Because then that would encourage people to take more risks. Some of the most amazing things that we're doing at Nerdio came because somebody just decided to try something. And they weren't really sure if it was going to work, but they tried it and it turned into something much bigger than they could imagine. So, I think as a leader in a company, we have to make sure that we're encouraging people to try things, and when they fail, we don't get upset at them. Right? As long as I always say it has to be legal and it has to be ethical, but try things and be willing to make mistakes. And as a leader, make sure you're encouraging people to make mistakes, because at the end, you're going to come out with some amazing, amazing ideas. So we've had a lot of failures at Nerdio. I've had many failures, both in programs I've tried, people I've hired. You have to be willing to sort of just get past that, forget about it, learn from it as much as you can, and move on to the next thing.
Wonderful. I think rewarding somebody to fail is something so profound, right? That's at the culture. And you being a founder and a co-founder, chief revenue officer, sets a different precedence altogether on the ground. So thanks for sharing that, Joseph. Shifting gears, innovation, and cultures. Now, in the competitive landscape right now, so much has happened in the world of tech. Now, as a company, how do you stay competitive? What's been your innovation mantra, if you can ask, in terms of how are you navigating this trail right now?
When my co-founder Vadim and I started the company, we said that we were going to be a very outside-in company when it came to our development. So, unlike much larger companies in our space, we come out with a new release of our product every 4 to 6 weeks with 10 to 15 new features, the majority of which are customer and partner recommended. So I think if you stay close to your customers and your partners, and you really ask them, tell me about your usage of the product. Tell me what you like to see. You inevitably come up with many, many, many things that you could put into your product. Now, of course, we have our own ideas, and then you sort of take those two things and you say, okay, I'm going to do a release every 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to have 10 releases in a year. The majority of the ideas come from outside in, and then that I think allows you to stay very current with what the market is asking for. Because I always say, why do I come to India to visit people like you? The truth is at the customer. If you just sit in your office and try to come up with the truth yourself, you might get part of it, but you're not going to get all of it. So you have to talk to customers. I learned something when I worked in Microsoft Brazil. My manager there, Paula Belizia, she tried to spend 70% of her time with customers. 70%, that's a lot for a managing director of a Microsoft subsidiary. But she always said, because the truth lies at the customer. So the more you could spend time with customers, asking them about your product, asking them about your go-to-market, you will end up building a much better company, and you'll end up building a company that really incorporates the best of the ecosystem.
Wow, that's pretty cool. In fact, I can draw parity to what I heard from Sam Altman recently. He did a world tour. So for what they want to do as next version of ChatGPT, he visited 24 countries in 25 days, and input came from there, right? So very, very similar to that. So thanks for sharing that, Joseph.
Well, Sam is an incredible entrepreneur. Maybe I need to take a page of that. 24 countries in 25 days.
Absolutely.
And get ideas for Nerdio. That would be amazing.
In fact, he's posted his notes from 24 country visits. It's worth taking a look on that.
I have to see that.
So all the use cases came from there in terms of what they want to do. Awesome. So Joseph, one last question. What's your superpower? That's something I would love to hear from every leader. So
I think my superpower, I would say, in a humble way, is what we just talked about. I like spending time in the field, talking to customers, talking to partners, talking to Nerdio employees, because I think that's where you get your best learning and your best ideas. As Satya always says, be a learn-it-all person, not a know-it-all person. If you go out there and make yourself vulnerable and you say, look, I don't have all the answers, you tell me what you think we should be doing, that's where you're going to be able to grow the company in an inordinate way. So I think my superpower is being able to get out there into the field and being approachable by customers and partners, and really listening in a very humble way to where we can do better.
Wonderful, Joseph. I can't thank you for your time.
Great
today.
to be here. Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Catching up with you.